What's up, you guys? Welcome back to another great episode of Living Real TV. I'm Carissa Atkins.
I'm Clara Capano.
And today we are here to help you boss up, gain clarity, and really rise to the occasion when it comes to kind of transitions in life, whether that's midlife, maybe that's you're going from college to, like being a wife. Transitions happen all day long. And today we're going to kind of dive in we have an amazing expert with us today. And let's just kind of get the party started with our cocktails.
So. Absolutely. This whole conversation today is going to be about different chapters, but if we're going to be reading the chapters of our life, we need a good drink to open up the door. So Dion, what do you have for us today?
Well, I would say the first chapter of your life is going to be called "And Then There Was Coffee."
Oh, you're saying my daily mantra.
All right. So we're going to start out. I like to spice up my coffees. So I don't like it black. I like it with just a little bit of almond milk. So I don't have any lactose issues or anything like that, and a little bit of chocolate. Now, from there, if I'm at home and my kids aren't there, a little liquor 44 goes a long way. So I normally this is, you got to think, this is morning on a Sunday. So maybe just a little half ounce of liquor 44. It's got a lot of Mediterranean botanicals and a nice vanilla finish, so it really does lend itself to everything.
Nice.
So like some French toast with this.
Oh, and you can cook with it very easily.
Okay.
And then Trader Vic's chocolate liqueur, it speaks for itself.
Yes.
You just
Sounds
open
delicious.
the bottle and pour as long as you want.
As long as you want, he said.
That sounds amazing.
But just for safety's sake, I generally only do about 3/4 of an ounce. I don't want to overdo it first thing in the morning. My in-laws might see me and be like, "Where's Dion?"
Yeah, this would be perfect for like a brunch cook.
My
Very
husband
easy.
loves this. He brought just a bottle. He just brought home a bottle of like espresso liquor.
What kind was it? Did you catch?
I can't. It's like taller, skinnier bottle.
Oh, yep.
So, but it was so good. And then he crafted he got an espresso can from the store. Because we love our coffee drinks with like a good, deep cigar, because that's like our thing. So we sit outside with cigar, a coffee drink, or a coffee martini in the fire pit, and we are like, in heaven.
I love the part of the show in the intro when you're just smoking a cigar. I'm like, yes, girl power all the way.
The health coach that smokes cigars.
Hey, we all have a vice or two,
do.
right?
And I went from 2 packs of cigarettes to cigars. So a cigar every now and then, either on the golf course or by the fire, is not too bad.
You are winning.
I even just love my coffee drinks. It's just, it is part of my morning routine. And, as much as I love the flavor of it too, I love the feeling.
And this is just a little coffee drink. So we'll just call this, I think this is the second one we've done on the show. So we'll just call this coffee drink number 2. Notably, I did add a little bit of nutmeg for aromatic. That way, with every sip, you're getting just that aromatic of nutmeg. And it really does balance things out to just have like a wonderful aroma along with a good taste. Anyway, ladies, thanks for having me on the show. It's weird, ever since I cut all my hair off, I don't wear a hat. And so I'm always doing this because I always take my hat.
Season 1, we had the hat, the hair. It's the look suits you. It looks fantastic.
Thanks, I appreciate it.
Oh my gosh.
All right.
We just smelt this drink.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Amazing.
Oh, look at all this. It's
I know.
falling. Well, what a perfect little cocktail to get the party started.
Oh, it is so nice. It is so, again, soothing. You can smell that nutmeg, and it's very good.
Actually, yeah.
Very good.
And as you guys can see, we have a fantastic guest with us
Amazing
today. I told you we were going to bring on an expert. This is Denise, and Denise is coming in from all the way from Canada.
I know. How amazing. First of all, thank you. I know that you and your husband got in the car and drove all the way down, and we had some time together at dinner last night, and it's such an honor to, have you take the time to be here with us and with our guests, so thank you.
Yeah.
It's an honor to be here. We are thrilled to be here. And I can't thank you enough for the opportunity.
Yeah. It's, you know, we're going to have a really great conversation because as women in life, as women in business, we go through different chapters in our lives. And sometimes they're exciting, sometimes they're sad, sometimes they're scary. But the idea is of all the transitions. So I know that you are an expert in helping women go through some of these different chapters. So we really want to dive in, learn a little bit more about you, your story, some of your strategies. But before we do that, we have to ask our question of the day.
Yes. You want me to get it?
Sure.
This one? Okay. What have been the most defining? No, that's not it today.
I know that's.
Oh, okay. All right. I remember what it is. Okay. If we were not doing what we are doing currently, what would you want to be doing? I think that's like it, because I feel like we're all in our purpose and in our power. So I'm like, what would we want to be doing?
So I had a college friend, and I remember asking her, you know, what her parents do for a living, and her father was a very high-level executive, and she said, "Oh, my mother is a lady of luxury."
Oh.
And I'm like, tell me more about this. So, you know, I could be a lady of luxury and, you know, go shopping and travel the world. I think I would probably be bored after a couple of weeks, but I would be happy to give it a shot. But I think, you know, if I were to, you know, not do what I'm doing now, I would really focus more on just, you know, being a writer. I love to write, and I would love to be able to write more books and, you know, put some things together. So I think that's what I do. Love to write.
You write for a lot of magazines.
I do. I write for several magazines. I do my weekly blog. I have. I'm working on book number 3, and I actually did a children's book when Nicholas was young, and I have to still get that published for him. But yeah, I love to write.
Oh,
Yeah.
well,
So,
I think I'll just go back to like what I wanted to be when I was a little girl. And it's almost full circle coming back. So after the Olympics was out of the question because I got injured as a gymnast. So I was like, okay, I can't be an Olympian and retire at like 18. So then I went on to this dream of like, I want to be an actress. And here I am in front of a set. It's kind of cool. But specifically, my niche would have been horror movies. So,
I can see you doing that with the scream and everything.
I perfected that scream. Like in the shower, like I needed the horror scream, the running up the steps and like falling and pretending that like I was the victim, like running and couldn't get away from the, you know, the evil person. And like I was ready to roll with acting. Like my very first paycheck came from, I was in a theater in a play downtown Omaha here. It was a play called Blood Brothers, and it was an English play. So I actually picked up my full English accent in that play. And ever since then, I've been able to just go into it, but I love it. It was my first paid gig ever as a 12-year-old in a play.
Well, we might have to make that dream come to reality. We might have to do a little horror sequence or something. So I love it. Fantastic.
Yeah.
What about you?
Oh, it's a great question. For me, I love learning. So anything that would be associated with learning in any way, shape, or form. So I think it would just be learning through, I mean, I love going to school, but I'm done with the school piece. But there's so much opportunity out there anymore for learning, right? So I think it'd be tapping into something like that, something that would be, I'd probably take a risk, which I wouldn't have done years ago. I would have stayed, you know, in the box, right? Do the thing that you should do, right? But I think it would be learning. The other thing that comes to mind is volunteering and anything to do with volunteering with people. I'm not a big animal girl, but I am a people person. So anything like that would absolutely fulfill me for sure.
That's wonderful. Yeah.
Sure.
And I love, you know, you're absolutely right. There is so much of an opportunity in this day and age with technology. I mean, between the books, the podcast, YouTube, I mean, there is just so much information on anything that you would want to learn. And I think, you know, when I study the patterns of successful people, that's one thing that I see in common is that they are voracious learners, you know, and so can always stretching ourselves. So I love that too.
I remember when my mentor gave me a book, and this was not that long ago, but she, you know, she sat me down and she said, "What's the last book you've read?" And I was like, "Of Mice of Men in High School? Are you kidding? Like, I don't read. I don't like to read." I was always told that I was not a smart reader, like I was not a smart student. It was going to be tough for me. But I read that book, and I obviously I just wasn't reading the right books because it was Cy Walkman's like on a leadership book. So I was in a leadership role. But that got me to start reading it. There was at one point I was like, could I just get paid to like read people's books? Like, that, what a life would that be? I just sit there. Is there?
Yes, there is.
I mean, but it has to be all personal development junkie books because that's kind of my wheelhouse. But well, and it definitely kind of fits, right? Your story of teaching and education, and now you are an empowerment life coach, and you help women. Is it women specifically?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
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 Women specifically in a specific kind of transformation in their life. So tell us a
Absolutely.
little bit about your background, your story.
I'd love to. So I had a wonderful career, just an incredible career as an educator, 31 years.
Wow.
I graduated out of university, jumped right in, got a spot in the field, and went right through 31 years. I ended up doing all kinds of roles in that position. I was elementary panel, so I did kindergarten to grade 6. And then I became a behavior resource teacher. Loved that. Working with the kids that were the most challenging, but way beyond their own capacity in terms of the reasons why. So that was a thrill. I loved every minute of that. And then I became a principal. Vice principal, and that's how I retired out. So loved that career. And then retired in 2018. Seems like a long time ago. And only yesterday, right? How time flies.
Yes.
And I going through education, I would hear and watch parents. They had especially moms, no time for themselves because they carried all the balls. It just seemed to be the way it was. Rarely would I have dads in to have conversations. It was more the moms, unless there was a separation or divorce or whatever, right? And so I watched the weight of the world on their shoulders, and it just, I knew there was something more that I could do to help people see there's another way other than just always looking after everybody else and never yourself.
Yeah.
So going through from my retirement and into retirement, I was like, okay, so one thing I didn't want to do was just be a couch potato and not know, like I can't sit, right? So we joined a gym. I said, let's just do this. Let's do something for ourselves. And I got hooked. And funny thing, I became a bit of a runner, which in high school, anybody who would be hearing this right now,
Denise, a runner.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
I was like, no, you were the cross-country coach manager. You looked after the shirts and the water bottles because my husband was a runner, so I had to be with him, right?
Yeah.
So anyway.
You didn't get the most popular run. Like, Denise is going to be a marathon
Yes,
runner
exactly.
when she's...
No, but I'll tell you, I've gone in races since, and I have
Okay.
done a half marathon.
Wow,
Good for
good
you.
for you.
I know.
That's
so
amazing.
And that's the kind of thing I want other women to know, that there is stuff inside of them that they've never tapped into before because they're so busy looking after everybody else.
They are.
Right?
Yeah, and that's, a fear that I have for so many women, is if that's where all your energy goes, again, there's going to be some sort of depletion on your own happiness, your own fulfillment, that's going to come out at some point in time. And really learning, we have to also take care of ourselves and nurture ourselves because, there's different stages. Again, I know I was always working outside the home, and ever since Nicholas was born, and it's that dance of you want to be there for these things, but you want to have the flexibility, but then everything changes, every few years. It's different in their first 2 or 3 years than it is than when they're, 5 to 10, and now my son is a teenager, so I barely see him at all, and, the sentence structure is maybe 2 words at a time, and, these different changes, you have to be ready for them because it can be very emotional.
Absolutely. You're so right. I like how you say he's changing, and so where's my role in that, right? 2 or 3 words at a time, not even full sentences anymore. And then it's like, what did I do wrong? Like, that's what I'm hearing sometimes from women. It's like, what did I do? It's like, no, it's not you, right?
Yeah.
So you went through all of that, 31 years, retired, started taking care of you, for you.
Yeah.
And then how did this transition come to an amazing empowerment coach?
So what happened was I knew there was more. I knew I needed to give back, but I had no idea how I was going to do that. So I just started supporting some people that knew me quite well and were watching my journey. And they were like, well, what what's going on? How are you doing that? So then I just started a bit of coaching on the side. And now it's just grown because I realized, you know what, there's so much more. There's so many women out there who are needing to know that they have so much within themselves and they have not even begun to tap it.
Did you know that you were kind of like going into this coaching role? I don't know, for me, like I met women at a Panera Bread, out of all places, full of carbs, full of sugary drinks, and on a Sunday, just to help them with their health and their weight loss and their habits and things, just to like have a sense of support. I had no idea that I was almost mentoring them and coaching them. I was like, yeah, just meet me here, right? Like I was just bringing them on and then, and I was still working for I was like, this is not what I do. I love doing this, but this is what I do for work. I couldn't even put the two together that I could absolutely probably make a living. So did you know you were kind of coaching? Did you were like, okay, I'm going to go into this role?
Yeah, I decided I was going to go into the role.
Okay.
I'm a really, and have always been a very goal-oriented individual, right? So I have that goal and I need to reach it. And so I used to do that with restrictive energy. I used to do that with like, I'm just going to make it work. Like that masculine energy, it's got to do it, I got to do it, I got to do it. Now I come at it from a totally different angle and realize, yes, this is a goal, but I don't need to know all the how behind it.
Yeah.
I just need to be me.
Right.
Right.
And I think that's a big part of it is, again, showing up authentically, being able to build that connection, build that level of trust. Because if you want to help people go through that transformation, you have to really lay a strong foundation that you can trust me, there's safety in working with me, and that we're going to make this for you. Because even though we may have a process, it has to be different for each person.
Absolutely. I love how you say that because that's exactly how I approach my supports. I'm huge on questions, and that's what people say, oh, you ask the hardest questions, but they're good. I'm like, yeah, that's kind of that's my gift. I don't know how it happens. It's just what I do. I think it's, training how to help kids get inside their own heads to know they've got this, they just can't see it. So twisting it around another way so they can see what they're capable of. I think I'm just using the skills that I've used all along and just adapting them to my current situation.
Well, and I also think, working in the elementary schools, you were able to gain experience helping children transition, whether it was every year to a different grade or going through those life changes. So now it's just a matter of adapting them because we're all children inside. Right. And when you look at some of the,
we all into the children back inside.
When you're looking at women, I mean, obviously there's so many different transitions. They can have a transition from going from just being a woman to being a mom. There's a transition of when your kids move out of the house. There could be a transition after a divorce or a death. Is there a certain area where you feel you are getting more of your clients? Is there an area, sort of a niche out of those that you kind of focus on?
Absolutely focusing on the children who are leaving. And it could be, I find it very interesting, it could be leaving to go to college, university. It could be leaving to go to the other spouses, going to a different living arrangement. It could be that they have gone and now they're coming back with their own families and living under the same roof because they can't make their own way. So it's all about that transition with your children.
Got it.
Yeah. And the older children.
So you work with the mom.
I work with
not
moms.
the kids. To be very clear on that.
Yep.
Okay. And how, as a coach, how do you do you work with one-on-one? Do you have a group program?
Great question. And here's the how part that I'm just letting flow, right? So I've got multiple ways that people work with me.
Okay.
They do one-on-ones.
Okay.
And I've got options within that. I also do classes and courses.
Okay.
And they're 8 weeks at a time. And there's a part 1 and a part 2 of those. And part 2 rolled out of because the people in part 1 were like, but I'm not done yet. And I'm like, that's okay, we'll create a plan, right?
Yes, yeah.
So I've got that. I also do some coaching in some other groups sessions. So I do parenting coaching in those sessions too.
That's great.
So,
Okay.
When you're working, this is fascinating for me, especially because I have a 17-year-old now. So looking at, again, the moving out. And I was talking with one of our other guests because she also has a 17-year-old. And her comment was, I don't know what I'm going to do with myself because my child plays so many competitive sports. Every weekend is with that. My situation is a little bit different. And most people know I've had a countdown going at about 4,000 days. And I am at 389 days until he graduates high school. Yeah. So it's a different perspective. But, do you find more women are scared, excited, mad? Like, what are some of the feelings that you think most women face when they start to get to that area where their kids might be moving out of the house?
Yeah, I'm finding at least the women that I work with reach out to me because they don't like the feelings
of them leaving,
of the kids leaving. They don't know what to do with themselves. They're worried sick about their kids. Some children have had mental health issues, and so they're super worried about their safety and everything.
Never thought about that perspective.
Always there for them, right? They can always be by their side if they need help. And now they can't, right? Yeah. Especially if they move far away. Distance is a huge thing for a lot of moms. Yeah. So there's a lot of healing that needs to be done through that process, and understanding and realizing that all the energy you put into helping them get to where they are now is going to still be there. Just because you're not there, the seeds you have planted are definitely there.
Yeah, I had a hard time with that. Yeah. When I moved down to New Mexico to be with my husband, my son stayed here, and he was 20 at the time. And I didn't have a hard time leaving, but what I got was, how dare you leave your son here? And I was like, he's an adult. Like, the minute he graduated 2 years ago, mind you, is when, he's an adult. I can't helicopter him, nor do I want him. And knowing my son, he's gonna have to hit every rock bottom along the way, because hey, that's me. And so yeah, he stayed, I left, and ended up getting into kind of a slump and a depression himself, and I could hear that over the phone. And I asked my husband, I said, what should we do? He's like, well, we go get him and bring him here. And I'm like, okay, but I don't want him living here. We are newlyweds. I don't want my kid coming back to me. That's crazy. And he's like, yeah, but he needs you right now. And that is important. But I didn't feel guilty, leaving, where some people were trying to put that on me. And I was like, no, I don't. I'm sorry. I don't. I got to live my life. I mean,
you make a great point, which is something that I think that's why we find ourselves in this position as moms, because the exterior world puts these pressures on us, and we hear that, but it's magnified.
Right.
It's so loud in our bodies, right? Because we already have maybe, I think I am doing the right thing. I'm not. Like, right? So we've lived so many years doing things what we think is the right way.
Exactly.
Right?
By what, again, society or this construct has created of what a good mom does. So, well, I'm just really excited. We're going to be diving in our second half of the show. We're going to be really diving into some of the strategies that you use specifically with women to sort of help them go into these transitions and have success with them. So I'm really excited to continue the conversation. So tune in for the second half when we share more tips and strategies helping women empower themselves during the different chapters and transitions.
Hi, I'm Clara Capano with Capano Speaking and Training, and I am here to get you clarity. As the strategist for the Smart Woman, I've spent over 20 years working with women in business, helping them to recreate what success looks like for them, to get them off that hamster wheel and to get them into running a purpose-driven business. When you work with me, you're going to find real strategies that are going to help you gain immediate traction in both your personal and professional life. So follow me and find out all you need to get you clarity at claracapano.com.
We are back, and we are going to continue the juicy conversation. We literally left off with, why do, us moms feel the pressure that society's put on us, whether our kids are leaving, we either feel good about it, we're excited for them, or we're like, no, stay with me forever. And it really does come down to a lot of what society says, what a good mom should be doing, the pressures of all of that. So we're just going to kind of continue the conversation with Denise. And I, just love to get us started on the question is, why do moms struggle with the role, of letting their kids grow up and be adults?
It's interesting because I think what I'm hearing a lot of, and what I even know in my own role, when they were little, I kept saying, oh, it's going to be great when they're gone, right? Like you have this big dream about, you know, empty nesting. I'm going to be able to live my life, right? And so as they get closer to that, then you start to realize, and women are starting to realize, oh no, it's going to happen, right? What am I going to do now? Because like we've talked about, I run them around all the sports. I'm not going to go to sporting events. That was my life. I used to hang with the parents, you know, at the arena, and then we'd have tournaments, and who are my friends going to be? What am I going to do?
They see almost their whole identity unraveling in front of them.
Exactly, because that has been their identity for 17 years, 16, 15, whatever years.
But it would even be the same for if a woman was, again, an executive, or I know one of my sisters had her own retail store, and after 18 years, she made the decision to close it. And she had to go through it, because I'm like, basically, you had a child for 18 years, and now the child is going, and she had to go through it. So it's not just even moms, it's, again, you know, whatever your identity is, whenever you see that identity kind of unraveling, it can cause a lot of stress.
And isn't it interesting, because your identity is based on the outside. So isn't it a beautiful thing, which is why I think I do what I do, because I'm in the midlife years too, right? So I understand that piece about being who I am based on the outside world, and now I know who I am based on me.
That's
I'm
so
back
free.
to me.
And that's so good. Are there certain tools, strategies, practices that you take women through to help them go from the external identity to more of an internal identity?
It's a great question, and everybody's on their own journey, so it looks different for everybody, but we talk a lot about keying in to your emotions and understanding your thinking behind what's going on, right? So almost taking a point of view where you are outside witnessing what you're going through. It's kind of bizarre, but the questions that I ask help them to see themselves in a new way through that kind of a process.
Yeah, fresh perspective, new lens.
Yeah.
I love that. So are there some things that you can start to do to prepare? So like when the freshman year hits, you know, like I'm thinking, I don't have that issue. I'm like, okay, I love you, goodbye, call me if you need me. But I see that with my husband, like 4 years before retirement. I'm like, what are you gonna do, right? For every 20 years, you've been putting on boots, you've been wearing the same uniform. God, can't imagine doing that. You've been reporting to this, like the structure. So it's like, what can people do to start to phase so that they don't have this like,
So a couple of things. One thing I think that's important is to understand what you're thinking about what that future is going to be looking like, right? Because what we tend to do or can do is making it into something that it's not even going to be, but you don't know. So if you don't know what it's going to be, you have the opportunity to build what you want.
Right.
Instead of sitting in the fear and processing that fear, because that's just going to build that. So whatever energy you're putting in behind, that's what's going to become your reality. So flip it and think about, what do you want to do? What do you want to do? And if you're worried and fearful about your kids leaving, let's say, what is that based in? What is the reality? What are you really afraid of, right? And really stepping into understanding that. Are you not thinking your child is going to be successful? Where's that coming from? Where is that, what has shown you that that will be a reality, right? And so what we tend to do is catastrophize and create this big bed. It's like, and that will help you stay where you are, and then your emotions will go all out of whack.
because you're in your comfort zone there.
Right?
That
Totally.
feels okay to worry about everything.
Totally, right? It's always been your job and responsibility to make sure everybody's okay. So you want to make sure everybody's okay, but giving them those wings is so powerful when you start to look at, what is it that I'm really worried about, and is that real? Is that a real fear? Or is that just something
Where
I'm
did the fear
creating?
come from?
Right.
And starting to also, I would imagine, think of, okay, what are some strategies? So going back to if there is a mom that has a child with, you know, some mental issues, I could imagine being concerned, but then maybe talking to, if they're going to college, is there a school counselor or a group? You know, what are some things that are local?
Besides knowing the vision, right?
Yeah.
Like that was like, you're like, just get a really clear crystal path on what you want your life to be like.
And know that and I start to identify some of the resources that are out there.
Absolutely. You would do exactly what you're saying in terms of setting things up to help them with that success piece. But in order, you aren't there to do it, right? So you can do the background. I mean, what you're talking about is very familiar to me, because that's exactly what I did for our son, who had some problems. And He's now living across the country from
Yeah.
us, and he's doing fantastic.
Yeah.
But we do have a system and a plan in place, which we still would have to use and can use if he ever needs us. But it's not like I'm always having to be there. You know, I don't have to talk to him every day or see him, you know, on the screen or whatever. I know the systems I put in place are working and they're there, and we all know how to use it.
Yep.
So
What would you say is if, let's say you're working with a woman and she's married, and she is kind of going through this transition, and she's okay. She's getting to the point where she's okay of letting go, but maybe her partner, her spouse, kind of isn't liking this new identity because they're used to her being home all the time, because it's also going to change for the spouse.
Absolutely.
So how do you work with them when it could be another external force trying to hold them back?
So I love the question because I've had that, right? Multiple times. And what happens is we focus on the woman because we can only control one person.
Yeah.
And that's ourselves. So understanding where that energy is coming from, understanding the place of where he is and it's not working, let's say, then that's something else you can put into place later if you need to, but you need to continue to focus on you. And when you do that, as you both know, when you do that, your energy changes, and those around you, their energy changes too, and your world just starts to blossom in ways you can't even begin to imagine.
true.
Right?
I'd be like, we're both gonna have our own coach. honey. You're gonna get one, I'm gonna get
Right?
one. Let's, and then we'll work together, or that therapy or whatnot. But like, I
Whatever.
love having a coach in
I
my
do
back
too.
pocket.
It's so important. And I think, you know, it's also changing the mindset. You know, that's, again, all we can really control is changing the mindset from this is an end to this is a new beginning.
This is totally
you
another
know?
fun
And,
chapter in the
yeah,
book.
again, trying to really tap into what does this mean? You know, what are we going to rewrite? What can it look like now?
And sometimes it's not even about the kid. I had a client, and you probably have seen this. They were okay about, you know, they said it was, I'm going to have troubles with my kids leaving. And then they leave and they're like, okay, well now I'm stuck with a partner that I don't even really know. And I'm actually not in love with him anymore. Like now, so they're like, no, kids stay here, because now it's a distraction. It's like the to-do list that people are like never ending, so that they can just avoid some other feelings that they don't really want to touch
Happens
on.
a
Have
lot.
you had that situation where they're like,
But it's interesting though that you say that, because no matter what you do, if you do that work for yourself, by yourself, because of yourself, then it won't matter in the end what that, it's not about that external relationship, it's
Yeah.
about you, right? So when we focus on you as the woman, not the mom, not the spouse, but you as a woman, everything else will go into place as it needs to be.
Yes.
Is it going to be always easy? Of course not. Life, right?
Yeah.
Life.
It's
But
every day.
right? We can do what we can do together to help you move forward, so you see what you haven't been able to see in yourself before. And I remember at the beginning when we were starting our conversation, and you were saying, I go back to what I used to love as a kid, right? I love tapping into that aspect with women. When you were 8 years old, what brought you joy? What made you dance around? What made you? And they're like, sometimes they tap into that, and boy, the sparkle in the eye. Oh,
yeah,
let's
it's
see, right?
transformation.
It
It's-
really is.
It's why that's how we get paid. Is like in the happiness. It's the what that woman becomes on the other side. Even if it's just for a moment, and they
Right.
believe in themselves, they have some
Yeah.
confidence in them. I love that. So self-care strategies, you've kind of mentioned a few things, like you went on this marathon journeys. What are some, like what would be some great suggestions for women that you would say, you need to find stuff that you like to do?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's exactly. And some of them go, but I don't know what that is.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, that's our job. That's our job, is to discover
Yeah.
what that's going to be.
So just talking about that, you know, how do you do that? Because I know several people, and I've asked them that question, you know, what is your why? What drives you? And they are like, I don't know, because their why has been their kids for so long.
Yep.
So do you have any like specific questions, or can you share anything on that?
I love your question, because I was coaching with a woman not that long ago, and something that came to her, and it was just through some questions I asked, and it was, you know, what makes your heart like bloom out of your chest, right? And sometimes I use meditation. I give them a meditation to help them connect with their inner soul. It depends on the individual, and it's a tough question. Your why, your purpose. It's a tough question.
And they overthink it all day.
Yeah.
Like, I should know this by now. I should know. Why can't I? I'm like, it'll come.
Because they're going from here and
Yeah.
not from here.
Right.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
And it takes time to know who you are. I don't know whether we ever go into self-realization or actualization. I don't know if we ever meet that, but we can get closer and closer every day by tapping into who we are as women, and spending time and giving space and support and a safe place to talk about the external stuff. And as we have conversation about the external stuff, I hear something and I can pick it out, and we go in through that process.
I always like to say, like, if I could wave a magic wand,
Yeah.
because sometimes they think that they need to get into like a fairy tale mode. Because when I'm like, well, what do you want? They're like, I don't know what I like. They're afraid even to tell me what they want out of like, well,
Well, because I think it's a decision. They think they have to make a decision right then and there. And if I say this cup is my why, then I'm stuck with that. Whereas the magic wand puts them in a dream state
like,
where they're not really
I think it would
making
be
a
cool.
decision.
Yeah, it'd be so fun to like live here or do this, and I'm like, okay, now we're starting to like peel something. I'm getting some life out of you from your heart, not what you think. I think, you know, they say what you think they want to hear.
Yeah.
I'm like, no, I'm not judging you, and I'm not comparing you, and I'm like, this is you. You have to figure this out. I love that, but.
And I think again, just giving each other permission, and rather than saying something like, "Oh, why would you want to do that?" And saying, "Oh, that's exciting. Tell me more about that," and encouraging women. And that's why I love what we're doing of creating and working to create this safe space and bringing on experts like yourself to create this new paradigm where people can have the freedom to step into their dreams and know that they're limitless. It doesn't have to end at a certain age. I mean, there's people out there that are graduating university at 90. Absolutely. They're starting their own companies in their 70s.
Or at 16, and you're like, what?
Or retiring at 50 and traveling the world. Again, going back to what lights you up and what brings you joy. And one of the things I always tell people is, even if you're a busy woman out there, 5 minutes a day. Do something for 5 minutes a day that brings you joy. Whether it's having a dance party or gardening or whatever it may be, you got to start to light yourself up. And that was something I looked at. My parents, they've been married for about 60 years, and I'm the youngest of 4. My mom was working in the home, and then when I was about 3, she decided that she wanted to go back to work as a teacher. And that was really frowned upon in our neighborhood back in the 70s. And it was my dad who said, no, I want a happy wife. And so he really cultivated it. My parents are complete opposites, but they cultivate each other as far as, you enjoy this, so you go do that. You enjoyed this, so you go do that. So they allowed each of them to have their own identity. And I think that set a really strong message for us as kids, that even though we may be married, we still are individuals.
Yeah, for sure.
What do you think people, when you get on the phone with them, is it fear? Is it regret? Is it shame? Like, what do you think is their biggest holdback?
Great question. I'm going to say it is the combination of regret, because it's like the wheels have gone, oh my gosh, what happened to that time? Oh my gosh, I didn't do this, or I did do this, and how did I do, like, what happened as a result of that? So that happens a lot. And it's just, it's a tough go when you're stuck in that regret, remorse, and you can't get out because you can't see any other, it's too late. It's too late. Can't turn the time back, right?
So how do you flip it? How do you switch it? Yeah.
You look at that and you say, wait a minute, just like I started at the beginning, learning. There is learning in that regret. That's the only reason for you to look at regret. That is the lens we need to look at it through. And once you get the learning, boom, that regret gets to go. Because now you're taking it forward in situations that are coming forward for you in new ways.
Yeah. Because hindsight is 20/20. We all could look back and say, I wish I would have done it differently.
We can live there. Some people do, and that's the tough slog, right?
I know I always have to reframe it, because I'm like, but if I didn't do that, I am who I am today because I went through all of that. So I would never regret, even, you know, the stupid parties that I went to. I'm like, Claire and I, we've talked sometimes, like, how did we even survive our teenage years? You know, like what? But I don't regret any of it. You know, I don't regret the decisions, but and I know that's a huge, you know, a lot of women have that. They hold it and it keeps them stuck, because I see it with the weight, right?
Right.
And the minute they let that regret go, or we dive in and unpack the fear, now we can start melting pounds off our bodies now. So I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
the weight was lifted. I'm like, the weight wasn't there. You were putting it there.
Yeah.
You were
Right?
holding it there. You were choosing to stay there.
It's, again, it's the letting go. It's the feeling safe enough that you can let go and be open to the next. I mean, I would imagine it's kind of like going through the 5 stages of grief, because a certain definition of you is dying and being reborn. And I think, again, really looking at how do you go through those to get to the point of acceptance and renewal.
Yeah. And I like how you talked about earlier, like 5 minutes a day. I work on that a lot, because you can't climb a mountain if you haven't even gone up a staircase, right?
Right.
And so people, when we do the goal setting, oh, I want to look like that. Okay, but, right? I just want to be happy. Perfect. That's a great start.
Yeah.
How are we going to start that small so you can feel it?
Yep.
Feel it in little increments, and then it starts to grow as we add little pieces to it.
Yeah,
I
because
can
that's
do
it.
that for only a short amount of time. Yeah,
I
yeah.
think
Start little.
I need
Yeah.
to go big. I need to do it all.
I want to be at the top of the mountain right now. I don't want to have to necessarily do the work to get there. But, you know, we do that. And I think, you know, going back to, I just want to be happy. But then what does that even mean to you? What would that look like to you?
What does that look like, sound like, and feel like for you? And sometimes they say, I don't know. I haven't had it for so long, I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay, let's tap into that.
Yeah.
Let's dig further on this aspect.
And as a coach, it's
Right.
like, we were going to talk about this, but we're shifting, because this is deeper, this is bigger, this is where we actually got to start. Because they're like, no, let's actually keep going. I'm like, no, we're stopping, and we're going to pause right here, and we're going to dive into that one.
And sometimes don't you even think, you know, or want to say, or what I tend to say is, so that's interesting that that's coming up for you right now. What is that about? What's going on in your body right now as you said that, right? I try to tap into their body system as quick as I can as we're talking. Yeah.
How they feel it.
Yeah.
So if there's a woman sitting at home right now listening and she's like, that's me, what would you say is maybe the first thing that she can do to help her on this journey?
So if it's you, the first thing I want you to start thinking about is what does bring you joy, and what is joy? Is that feeling in that heart? And my guess is it will start to be an external piece first, and that's okay, right? If you love painting and, oh yeah, I used to paint when I was 12, get the paints out, just go for it. Who cares, right? Start doing something that even brought you joy when you were younger. Tap into that and how you can start doing that. And I say, depending on your days, I say anywhere, and people look at me, a minute? I'm like, 1 minute to 5 minutes every day. Start with 1 day. And the other thing I love to tell people to do is track it. And they're like, oh, no, piece of paper.
We're not
check
talking
mark.
calories.
Nope, exactly. Just put a check mark.
Yeah.
Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, I have a lot of women who put calendars on their fridge and check it off. What a great feeling, right? So go and do something that makes you happy for 1 minute.
Yeah.
Check.
And I'm a sticker junkie, and that motivates me to see a whole 30 days lit up with smiley faces, or, you know, that reminds me of when I was a child, probably, because I'm competitive and I wanted every sticker to have and all the sparkly stuff. So that's exactly right. So when I've got a short-term goal, like a 30-day or something, right, I just quickly print off a calendar and I put it on the fridge, and my stickers are right there. And then my kids are like, well, I want a sticker board. And I'm like, okay, you get a sticker board too. And but that alone gives us a sense that I am making progress, that 1% is going to equal major results at the end of the day.
And it's important to see the progress.
Yeah, I love visuals.
So let's talk about this 5 minutes a day thing, 10 minutes a day. Let's, for each of us. So for you, if you only had 10 minutes today to do something for yourself to bring you joy, what is your go-to?
Running.
I'm
sorry. I'd be right. And you asked me that 5 years ago, people would be like, oh, yeah, right. Good luck. That's a goal.
Yeah, that's
running.
great.
Yeah. I would probably meditate, because I think I love just tapping into my future self. I feel like abundance and happiness and joy is a feeling, and I can tap into that at any point in time using breath work. But trust me, I started with like a 2-minute thing because I was like, I can't keep the goal was shut my brain off, but now I realized that I would be dead. That's an unrealistic goal. So yeah, I went from 2 minutes to 5 minutes to 15 minutes to, but it's however long it takes. Some days are busier, and I'm like, Carissa, you got to take your spiritual power hour and go from an hour to 30 minutes. And what's then most important? I'm like, I want to read and I want to meditate. As much as some people would be like, oh, it's probably going to be exercise, and I love that, but I can't do that in 5 minutes. Like, I'm a junkie, so if I had 5 minutes, I am literally visualizing my best ultimate life because I can literally feel it.
Yeah. I would take my dog for a walk because, again, I like getting outside. I like getting the fresh air, but I just love watching her because they're just fun to watch for, me when she chases a squirrel and just the excitement of, I'm going to get it this time, and I don't know, just watching her play, and I don't know, it makes me smile.
Yes.
I love my doggie. So,
do you, when you do your recording or your meditations with your clients, do you send them a recording so they can always good?
Yeah. I find I match with what it is that they're going through very specifically. Yeah.
Are there anything that, we can do if we're not an expert like you are, but just even with our friends? If I'm out having lunch or coffee with some of my girlfriends, what are some things I can do to help somebody?
Yeah. I would listen. I would do the active listening, which I do a lot of work around and talk to women about how to active listen and what that really means and what it looks like, sounds like, feels like, so that you are giving them value and giving them your time and letting them know how important they really are through that process.
That's beautiful.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
That's what I would do.
People don't do that anymore.
Right? It's hard.
It's
hard.
The active listening, it's hard.
It is hard. It is hard, and yet when you do it, so powerful in both sides. Yeah,
something I have to practice because I can listen to my clients. Totally easy. I can listen to my heart. I can listen to my thoughts. But when it comes to like listening to my partner, I just want to like help them. And so like sometimes he's like, babe, I need you to shut your mouth and listen to me. I'm like, okay, they don't need me. But I can't think they don't need me. Because what they need is the listener. Because I need it too sometimes. So my daughter, she'd be like, Mom, I don't need the coach. And I don't need the mom. And I don't need the friend. I just need you to sit there. And I'm like, okay.
And I've actually learned, to say those things to people. I'm just calling you because I need a moment to vent. I don't need you to fix anything. I'm just having a day. But I think also letting them know if, let me be that person to you. I know that you're going through a time. If you need someone to listen to cry to scream at, I'm a safe place to be able to do that. And, and also even I think, we can do a job of maybe even cultivating. Like I can, do a painting class or, host something, even just a girls' day or a brunch where it's like, come and we're not talking about,
Kids,
our significant others. We're not talking about, exactly. We're talking about just girl talk. And, just creating that space.
Absolutely.
So,
absolutely.
Fantastic.
Therapy.
Yeah. Well, we want to go ahead and share with you because you definitely are another one of our sisters who bosses up. So here is a gift from us to you. And
amazing.
It has been so fun having you here and talking about this. And this is such an important topic, not just, for today, but going in because we have to remember life changes. We are living, thank God, we are living much longer, and we have to start embracing those different chapters rather than fearing them. So I think that what you are doing is so impactful to be able to give a platform for women to feel safe to say, my life is not over. This new chapter is just beginning.
Absolutely.
So thank you for what you're doing, and thank you for being here with us today.
Thank you so much.
So,
it's been a pleasure.
Yeah.
Living real sisterhood
Exactly.
now.
And for those of you at home, thank you so much for joining us today for another powerful episode of Living Real TV. We appreciate you watching with us, and we are looking forward to our next time with you. Until then, I'm Clara Capano.
I'm Carissa Atkins.
Keep living real.